Lost surgery, chapter 5, post-surgery complications. After surgery and being discharged, I came home and things were going all right until I started going to the washroom. And when I started going to the washroom at home, there was a bit of blood. And that's all, just blood. And by washroom, I mean bowel movement. And then that kept getting more frequent and more blood. And there were not just blood drips and not just blood liquid, but clots, formed pieces of blood clots in my bowel movements. So that would happen more frequent. I came home the day after surgery, which was the 21st. The night of the 21st, I was a mess. I was bleeding over and over again out of my butt. I kept having to rush to the washroom. At around midnight, it was getting excessive. Kept having to run to the washroom. And then eventually I would stay in the washroom. And I was there for hours because it just kept coming here and there. By morning, I was fed up. I was done. And I was a ghost. I was white. I was not doing well at all. I told my wife throughout during the night that this would possibly come to pass, that I would have to go to emergency if it kept getting worse. And it did. So around 6 a.m., I contacted my friend Rob, who hosts Watch and Complain, watchandcomplain.com, a podcast about movies and television. I contacted him and I asked him, hey, can you please watch my son? He had watched my son 2 nights previous to this issue, because my wife wanted to see me in the hospital without my son being there. But now it's 6 a.m. and I'm like, can you watch him until school and put him on the bus for us so that my wife can rush me to the hospital? He was like, yeah, sure, no problem, who cares? And so my wife called him, made sure it was all good, and we headed straight over. We dropped Alexander off, and Rob got to see how ghost-faced I was and messed up. I was just sitting in the car like this, going, oh, and I was just pale and hoping I didn't have to go to the washroom because that was a constant. And then we rushed to the hospital. I went to emergency at KGH. There's one person there in the waiting room. I go to triage and they see that I'm pale. I tell them everything that they need to know about the situation, and they put me in the waiting room, which is fine in the moment. We're waiting in the waiting room and I have to go to the washroom again. So I go to the washroom and more blood, and I come out, and every time that happens, I'm just drained of my energy and I feel like trash and I'm a ghost. So we go to triage and I say, this has happened again. It keeps happening and I feel even worse. They take my readings again and they go, yeah, you're worse. Let's put you in right away. So I go in on a stretcher, or I get to a stretcher and I lay down on it, and I end up there for 12 hours. Granted, while I'm there for 12 hours, I'm getting IV liquids and going to the washroom over and over again with my IV pole and passing out or sleeping. I don't even know. My wife says that halfway during conversations, I would pass out or look like I'm going to. So maybe I did. But I was in that situation where I was so lacking of energy that that makes sense. So after about, let's say, 11 hours, they came and said, yeah, well, during that process, they were like, yeah, you're going to get admitted. It's likely, we just need the go-ahead. I ended up getting the go-ahead and then had to wait for someone to come down from admitting, I guess, and sign paperwork. And then they're like, you're getting admitted, but we have to find a bed for you. So about an hour later or so, maybe a little longer, they found a bed for me, and I went to a 4-occupant room. I'm gonna have to break this up. So we'll go to the next chapter and describe how it was in the hospital while I'm dealing with this issue.